we'll start with our remaining topic of IP protocol. So I think we have done fragmentation offset. Okay, so this was also done now, this particular part. Now we are here TTL protocol header checksum. Okay, so most of the things you already know. So header checksum you already know. Source destination, source address and destination address we already know. Okay, so I'll talk about this TTL and this protocol. Okay, so why we need a TTL? Just wait a second. Okay, so why we need a TTL here? Okay, so TTL, if you remember, it also came in link state routing, and that was the purpose of it, that to avoid any kind of a infinite loop. Okay, so the same purpose it serves in this here. So it is required. Suppose it has a TTL, like TTL is time to live. How can I do this? Suppose you have a router. Okay, so you have a router. What do router do? This is a network. This is a router. This one. So this router has a network layer, data link layer, and a physical layer. You already know this. Okay, another networks are connected to you, and there is another router that is connected. Okay, so what happens is that when you send from this network, you send any packet to this router. If this particular router if this particular router is able to find the destination IP in its own network address, then it's fine, there is no problem in that. But if not, it will send its packet to something called a default entry. If you remember default entry in routers, what happens in default entry, it will send to another router, and again another router will see if it is possible or not. Okay, so if the receiver is not in the same network, router will send the packet to default entry. We already know that. Now, what will be the problem lie if I have some scenario like this? I'll show you where will be the problem lies. Okay, so here the router is connected here, and then here, and then here. Okay, so they are connected each other in a loop. Now what will happen if the packet arrive here? It does not lie in the network, it will send to a default entry. Packet again come here, it does not lie in the network, it will send it to a default entry. Packet lie here and does not lie in the network, it will send to a default entry. If you're seeing here default entry, everything is just it will stuck into a infinite loop. Okay, so again the same purpose, if you want to avoid this infinite loop, you will use TTL. Okay, now what did TTL do is it is given, it counts the number of hops, count the number of hops. So I'll show you with example what is the meaning of this. Suppose you are connected from India, and there is another router that is connected, suppose at England. This is India. Another router that is connected to, suppose, Tokyo. Another router that is connected in America. Okay, suppose any other router. Okay, so in particular, you know that your router will not take more than 4 to 5 hops to go across the world. Okay, so again the maximum limit, you know, the maximum hop count is set on the packet, and so that your packet will always arrive into the designated uh, destination. Okay, so you should limit the hops such that it does not stuck in an infinite loop. Suppose now what happens actually, so you are the sender now, so you set the TTL to be 3. Suppose you set the TTL to be 3 here. Okay, TTL to be 3. Now what happens when it hops here, the TTL now becomes of this packet. Now the TTL is 2. Now when you come here, the TTL of this packet becomes 1, and now when you come here, the TTL of this packet becomes 0. Okay, so suppose your destination was here. Okay, so your destination was supposed to be here. Now you set the TTL to be 3. Okay, so when the TTL finishes, now it is standing at here. Now it has taken 3 hops to reach this particular part. Now it will check wherever it is tending, is it equal to the destination? If it is equal to the destination, then well and fine, I think my detailed purpose is served. But if it is not the destination, this particular router will discard the packet. Okay, so that is why we always try to maximize the TTL so that it will not be avoided. So it always reach the destination how if however it takes the longest path also. Okay, so that responsibility is not on you. It is decided by the software. Okay, so in the operating system, or if you are using Cisco router, so it depends upon the software that is used in the routers or that is used in your machine in your operating system, that decides this TTL, how long this TTL will be. Okay, so keep that in mind when you now if I take the same procedure, the TTL in this case should be 4. Okay, so the procedure will be TTL here will be start from 4, then it will reduce to 3. Now you are seeing here at every step one thing of the header is changing. Okay, so one thing of the header is changing. Okay, so if I put up IP here, now when IP reaches here in the header, TTL field is changed. Again, I have to again calculate something called a header checksum. In the similar way, here it is again changed. Again, I have to calculate the checksum. Here also it changes. So again, so you're seeing here when anything is changing on the way, I have to again calculate something like checksum to maintain that there is no kind of error there. Okay, so now it is also called as a solution to infinite loop because if you take the same scenario, if it is stuck, suppose it was stuck in an infinite loop. Now it reaches, suppose the TTL started at here 3, here the TTL will be 2, here the TTL will be 1, and here the TTL next time the TTL will be 0. Okay, so it checks that if it reaches the sender, if it reaches the destination. If it is not, then this router will discard the TTL. Okay, so then it router will discard the IP address. So that is why TTL is mostly used to avoid any kind of if I get stuck in an infinite loop, so I want to avoid it. So that is why TTL is always used. Okay, so another field is your protocol. Okay, so protocol means that we already have studied many protocols, but there are other protocols also. Okay, so if I get to the field of protocol, I think it's the 10th field. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11. Okay, so suppose it's a 11th field. Now at 11th we have something called protocol. Okay, so I also tell you about this. You are, suppose you are standing at transport layer. The most popular transport layer protocols are TCP and UDP. Okay, now you are standing at this one. So here the most popular was ICMP, IGMP, Internet Group Messaging Protocol, and also there is something called IP. Okay, so what can you do now? If you're seeing here, when the packet is available at network layer, okay, so packet is available at network layer. It also have these protocols. If you are using TCP or UDP, you also have this particular protocol because the packet is coming from the transport layer. Okay, keep that in mind. Okay, so because the packet will be transformed or transferred from the transport layer to the network layer. So network layer also have the information of whatever protocol I've used on the transport layer. Okay, so now network layer will know, first of all it will know either TCP or UDP used from the transport layer, or it is using its own protocols also. Okay, so ICMP, IGMP or IP, it is using its own protocol. So a network layer can look into two things. First, it looks the protocol of TC or T transport layer, and it can look into its own protocol. Okay, so why cannot we directly look into the packet and why directly look in the packet and see what is represented in the what is represented in the header? Okay, so suppose what happens in that. So I'll take a scenario. Suppose there is some packet that is going on here, and you know the buffer of this router is, suppose it is full. it is full. Okay, so now this particular IP packet was supposed to be discarded because the router buffer is full. Okay, so now previously it was directly discarded it, but now what will I do? Because of this protocol field, I tend this particular router can look inside its what is present inside this particular packet. Okay, so uh, if it looks inside this particular packet and it finds that there is a TCP protocol that is being used here. Okay, suppose this particular packet has a TCP protocol. So TCP is one of the most reliable protocol there. Okay, the reliable means if you are sending some sending some packet or sending some information using the TCP protocol, so there is 100% chance that this protocol will not be avoided. This protocol will not be lost. Okay, so now what it do, this router will look inside its own buffer. Okay, the router looks inside its own buffer and find if there is any other packet that is not using a TCP. Okay, suppose this packet is not using a TCP, it is simply using a ICMP protocol. Okay, so if it is using ICMP protocol, what it do, this router discard this particular ICMP protocol and put this particular TCP protocol in the buffer. Okay, so that is how this particular protocol field works. Now the route, because of this IP router, because of this IP protocol, the router is able to look at the protocol that are being used at present in the IP packet. Okay, so again keep that in mind. I'll write the ICMP has the least priority. Okay, so ICMP has the least priority. If you want to discard it, you can easily discard this particular protocol. So it is just a messaging protocol. In the similar way, another is IGMP. It is Internet Group Messaging Protocol. Okay, so it has the least priority. After that, you can, if you do not have any ICMP, if you have IGMP, you can discard this protocol. After that, if you have a UDP protocol, you can also discard this protocol. Okay, so discard it. And the last one is your highest priority is the TCP protocol. Okay, so high priority is this one. Okay, so if you have this particular packet in your buffer, you may not avoid, you cannot discard this particular packet. Again, there may be chance that in this buffer, all the packets that are present are using a TCP protocol. Okay, so in that case, what you do, you have to discard this particular TCP protocol, and then it is the responsibility of the sender. After timeout, it will again send the same TCP protocol to the router there. Okay, after some time, the buffer will be empty and it will again send the TCP protocol to the router. Okay, so that is how it works. That is why TCP protocol is one of the most reliable. Now you're seeing here IP protocol is not reliable at all. Okay, so if you're seeing here, because IP uses ICMP, IGMP, most of the time ICMP and IGMP are discarded on the way. If you are not receiving a message, there is no need to worry. So we do not need actually worry. We do not resend ICMP again and again. I will show you why we do not send ICMP again and again. Okay, so that is how your protocol field works. Now your last field will be mainly header checksum. So okay, header checksum is very similar. You have to calculate the checksum, but there is one more thing that I want to show you. Okay, so it is 16 bits. We already know this. Now the checksum, always keep in mind, the checksum is always calculated on the header, not the payload, not the data. The checksum is calculated on this header that we are doing. So header checksum means you have to calculate the checksum on the header. Okay, so you will not calculate the checksum on the data. So this is the responsibility of another. I can say that this is a responsibility of another, because you are another protocol. Okay, so you are standing at network layer. So maybe it is a responsibility of transport layer to calculate the checksum on the data. I do not need to worry about it. I only need to worry about the header checksum. Okay, so what it means is that why header checksum is difficult in this one, because header checksum is only calculated on the header. Now, why it is difficult? Okay, why? header checksum is not applied on data. This will be your question. Why I not apply header checksum on the data? Okay, so suppose you are standing at sender and you send another packet. So what happens here? You calculate the header checksum at the sender side. Now suppose the TTL here was I. Okay, so when you go, you calculated the header checksum and put the value whatever you got the checksum at the sender side. Okay, so suppose at CS you put something like X. Now when you go here again when you go here, the TTL part will be I minus 1 and the header checksum part will be uh, it will not, now it will not remain X. It should have to change because TTL part is changed. Because TTL part is changed, now you again have to calculate the header checksum and you and again have to put the another value here, that is X or another Y. Okay, so if you're seeing here, uh, the header is a very lot less information than the data. So if data is like 10 MB, 20 MB, so if you include data in the header checksum also, so every router has to again calculate the header checksum with the data. So that will take a lot of time. So that is why we do not calculate the checksum on the data, because at every time you're seeing here the field that is changing is TTL. If TTL is changing, I have to again calculate the header checksum. So that is one problem. Okay. So now if you see here, there are not there is only there is not only one field that changes here. Okay. So another field that change fields which change at every hop. Okay. So this particular question is also asked in, I think, one of the Cisco's exam or in GATE exam. Which particular field in the IP packet change at every hop? Okay, so first one that changes at every hop is your fragment offset. Okay, because if you remember
Sir,
yes,
can you please send the RSVP for the meeting again? As many of the students have not been able to join the meeting as the calendar is not showing the meeting.
okay,
So
let
I
me,
think the RSVP is removed in some way.
can you not share the meeting link?
Yes, sir, it is not visual in the calendar of some students, including me also, sir. I was not able to see it and then I had to borrow the link from my friend so that I can join the meeting.
Okay, so let, why it is not changing? Okay, just let me see what I can do.
Okay.
Okay, so I've sent the link. If anybody wants to join, they can. Okay.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay.
But
Now
sir, it would have been better if you have sent the RSVP because sir, it would have appeared on the calendar also.
I have already added it. The RSVP link should also already appear because you are already added in the group. I don't know what is the problem, but I'll see what happens after that lecture. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So there is only not one field that changes at every hop. There are many fields. So the first field that change at every hop is your fragment offset, and then there is another field that changes is your more fragment. Okay, this field or this flag also changes. Now another field that changes is your total length. Okay, because for every packet total length may be same, will be differ, because TTL will change, the total length will also change. And another is that it can happen that at every router there is something called a fragmentation. Okay, so if fragmentation happens, suppose if I take a scenario that this particular, there is a network, there is a router, and there is a network again. So this particular network has a maximum MTU size of 100, and this maximum has a maximum unit size of 50. Okay, so this router, it cannot send this particular packet into this one because it accepts only 50 bytes. So what this router do, it divides the packet into two parts. It is dividing the packet into two parts. The fragment offset will be changed, more fragment bit can be changed, the total length will also be changed. Okay, in the similar way, TTL we already know it will change, always change, and the checksum will also, the header checksum will also be changed. Okay, so another thing. Okay, so these are the mainly 5 fields that change at every hop, so keep that in mind. Now your last part will be your source and destination address. So there is nothing to it, so you already know what is a source address, source IP address. IP addressing we have already studied it, so it will be a 32-bit address, and in the similar way destination address will also be your 32-bit address. Okay, and your last is your options. Okay, so in the option fields there are many options, but mainly there are two options that we used. The first option that I can call is something called record route. Okay, so record route. Now what happens in that, it already given in the name, you have to record the route which you are following. Okay, so what happens here, I'll give you example. So this is a sender, these are some routers R1 and R2. So what will happen in the record route part, so if you are at sender, there will be nothing here. When you go towards this particular part, the record route will add R1 as entry, and when you go towards this particular path, it will add R2 and R1 as entry. When you reach towards the receiver can see which particular path this packet has followed. Okay, so this is the advantage, because if you want to send any ICMP packet, so you can send ICMP packet back on the similar path that the packet has arrived. Okay, so mainly if you see here, option field is of 40 bytes. Okay, so option field is of 40 bytes. So uh, this particular record route at every router can use 4 byte. Okay, so every router has 4 bytes to record this particular path. Every router has 4 bytes. Okay, so you may be thinking the maximum routers that has 4 bytes. So it will be maximum routers, if sorry, maximum, I'll say route. Okay, so 40 bytes, you may be thinking that for 40 bytes, 10 routers are needed, but actually it is less than that. Okay, so you cannot use all the option field. So I always used 9 routers. Okay, so it means that record route at every router, this particular option, suppose it started from here, there is no at the sender side there is nothing, and receiver side there is nothing recorded here. Okay, so when you go towards the router, now router has 4 bytes of data to embed in this particular route in this particular field, that is option field. So 4 byte of data, 4 byte of data, but maximum you already know in IP packet, the option has 40 bytes of data. Okay, so option have 40 bytes of data, but we always try to not use 40 bytes of data, all the data that is available in the option. So we will always use less than that. Okay, so that is why I'm saying there are 10 routers on the path, or if I have to record 10 routers, the 40 bytes will be filled. So I do not want to use that to avoid any kind of a, because any other field there also option can also be used by other fields. So that is why I'm avoiding it by using only 9 routers. So I'm leaving some space empty, that is 4 bytes. I'm lefting it empty, so anybody wants to use any option, they can use it by these 4 bytes. Okay, now another part is your source routing. This is also one options that can be used here, source routing. Now what is the meaning of source routing? Specifically I'm talking in this particular context is strict source routing. Okay, so what is the meaning of it? Everything is in the name here. So source routing means the routing path will be given at the source. Okay, so I'm the sender, and suppose there is this particular path that is available to you, something like this one. Okay, now I will identify, I will tell at the sender side, I will tell that which particular path to follow. Suppose this is R1, R2, R3, R4. Okay, so I'll say that it will start from sender, it should go to R1, then it should go to R2, then it should go to R3, and then it should to go to destination. Okay, so this is called, everything is identified, and everything is told to the packet at the source side. So that is why it is referred to as strict source routing. Okay, so you have to follow this path that is divided, that is given you in the packet. You cannot change the path. Now the decision of the path is not on the router. So previously router decide which path to follow. Now the router has no responsibility. It will look into the source routing and it will send the packet whatever is marked there. Okay, another thing is that uh, you can there is another routing here, that is loose routing, loose source routing. So loose source routing means that whenever there is an option, you give a router a chance to decide anything. Okay, so I can say just wait a second. हाँ ठीक, 2 मिनट, just wait a second. Okay. So in loose source routing, what you do, you at the source side, you just describe that the packet should reach from R1 to I can either you can directly say R1 to destination, or you can directly say R1 to this one is this R3. Okay. So you are giving a router a chance to decide which particular path to follow, either to follow R2 or to follow R4, or you can directly give here, rather than giving R3, you just give here that the router should reach from R1 to D. Okay, so this is called loose state routing. You are not absolutely deciding which path to follow. You are just giving that you are just giving some path. Okay, so you are giving that the from source it should go to the R1. That is a definite case here. So it should go to the R1. After that, it depends on the router which particular path to follow. Okay, so now there is another option called padding. So padding is also used in option. So if you want to add any kind of extra zeros or any kind of extra other things, so padding is also there. Okay, so with this, I think option field, mostly these kinds of option exist. So option field is now completed. Okay, so now your ICMP is remaining. Okay, so ICMP. Okay, so I also tell you about this. Just wait a second. Okay, so ICMP is basically it's a network layer protocol. Many things are similar here. Okay, so it is a network layer protocol, and ICMP takes support from IP. Okay, so that is why I've discussed IP earlier. Then I'm discussing now ICMP. Okay, so it takes support from IP. So what it means is that this is your network layer, this is your ICMP, and this will be your IP. Okay, so because you already know IP is not a very reliable protocol, so in the way the packets can be lost. So it is the responsibility of ICMP to tell the receiver or to tell the sender that the packet is lost. Okay, so now mainly ICMP have these many techniques of handling. So ICMP has error handling techniques. Okay, so it is referred to as error handling or feedback messaging. Okay, so if anything is lost or any kind of problem there, so it is the responsibility of ICMP, that is Internet Control Messaging Protocol, to inform the sender that there is some problem here. So the main types of feedback we receive is TTL exceed, parameter problem, source quench, source redirect. So everything is in the name. There is nothing much to it. I'll go one by one. Source redirect, and the last was destination unreachable. Okay, so again it is everything in the name here. Okay, so again I'll explain you how this particular feedback works. Okay, so feedback work or error handling will work like this. You send something from sender to the router. Suppose there is some kind of error that occurs at the receiver. So receiver will send something called a feedback packet, that is your ICMP, informing that there is any kind of a problem here. Okay, so the problems are listed here, what problems can exist. So error handling, again you know why this ICMP is needed. One thing why it is needed, because IP is an unreliable protocol. It is not a very reliable protocol, so it is very much possible that your packet can be lost on the way due to many reasons. Okay, so suppose I'll talk about this one. So suppose you are transferring some packet here and your packet is lost. So I'll take one scenario here. I'll take some scenario here so that you will understand it easily. Yeah, I can take it. So just take this one. You're sending some packet, and on the way, suppose this was another router here. On the way, your packet when arrives at R3, when it arrives at R3, suppose this is your R2, there the packet is discarded by this particular, suppose this is by this particular router. Okay, so now what will happen from R3, the message will be sent from R3 ICMP, it will be listed like that, ICMP to R3, and it is going towards the sender. So I'm writing the source and the destination part here. Okay, so suppose there is so much traffic here, R3 do not have the buffer to hold the packet, so it is directly sending back ICMP packet saying to the sender, saying that I do not have any space to store it. Now what can happen here, R2 can also exist in the traffic. So what this R2 do, uh, R2 also discard this ICMP packet. So it can also happen because R2 is also lies in the traffic. Okay, R2 can also lie in the traffic. So it is also very much possible that R2 can also discard the ICMP packet. So what this R2 do, R2 will again send the same thing. It will send ICMP ICMP packet to R3 because I am saying that I am discarding your packet. So the source will be R2 and the destination will be R3 now. Now see, when it reaches to R3 again, R3 again have to discard the packet because the traffic is still there. Okay. So when it discards the packet again, it will send. Now ICMP will change. ICMP. Now the source will be R3 and the destination will be R2 now. Okay. So again, the traffic is not going anywhere till now. So it is also possible that will again send ICMP. I have again dropped your packet. Okay. So you're seeing here, ICMP, if you're seeing here, it is just a messaging protocol. If I make sure that if I discard any packet, the ICMP should receive the destination, should always go to the destination, then there is this problem that it can get stuck in infinite loop again. Okay. So if there is a traffic problem, the ICMP from R2 to R3, R2 to R3, R2 to R3 will be sent again and again and again and again. Okay. So ICMP was supposed to be a very lightweighted protocol. So I do not need to worry. Now, what happens is that if now I'll say in this very one line, I can summarize it. If IP is discarded, you send ICMP packet. Okay. So that is clear. Now, if ICMP is discarded, there is no need to send, do not send ICMP packet again. Okay. So if IP is discarded, that is fine. But if ICMP is discarded, now this particular packet was discarded there is no need to send it. Okay. So if the ICMP does not reach to the sender after a timeout will again send the packet. There is no need. Okay. So ICMP is just an extra information protocol so that the router knows why my packet was getting discarded. Okay. So if it reaches to the sender, it's well and good. If it is not, there is no need to worry about it. So you will eventually find it what was the problem, because it's again a transient problem. You will always find it at what was the problem, why the packet was losing, why the packet was lost on the way, because there was some traffic. You will eventually find it. Okay. Now the first one is your TTL exceed. So it's very simple. Again, everything is in the name. Sender, there are some packets. Suppose it starts from TTL2, TTL1 now, and then TTL0. Okay. So you have to discard it because it does not reach to the receiver, or I'll say receiver. Okay. So what you have to do, you have to discard it and you have to send ICMP packet saying ICMP type, you have to write TTL exceed. Okay. So you have to say that TTL was exceeded and it still not reached the receiver here. So that is why I'm sending a message back to it. Okay. So it's very simple. TTL exceed, everything on the name. Another thing is your source quenching. Okay. So the dictionary meaning of quench is to stop. Okay. So quench, the dictionary meaning of it is to stop. Okay. So it sends some information or sends some message to the source here to just stop because there is so much traffic or any other thing that lies here. Suppose this is the scenario. Now this is R1, this is R2. It will send R2 something ICMP source quench. Okay. So if it is sending a message source quench, it means that when R1 is sending so much packets to R2, so that R2 cannot handle this packet. So I can say to R1 that please stop sending the packet. I cannot handle it. You should wait for some time. Okay. So there is no need again there is flow control mechanism employed there for that purpose only. But if still this is again an extra effort that you are doing. Okay. So in order to avoid that flow control mechanism to kick in, you can easily use ICMP to tell that just wait for some time. I'm not able to process the packet. Just wait for some time. Okay. So it can also be used. So rather than using flow control, because it is a very complex method, flow control will always be in place, but still you can get extra information before doing anything. Okay. So that is the advantage of using ICMP protocol, because it is very I'll just say lightweighted. Okay. Another thing is your parameter problem. Okay, so now this what happens in this particular parameter problem here, uh, uh, when the when the contents of the IP packet get corrupted. Okay, so I'll say when the content of the IP is corrupted, then this particular IP is sent back, ICMP is sent back. Okay, so I can say, suppose I'll take this one source. I'll take any example. Okay, so I can say this one is R1, R2, and R3, and this is your destination. Suppose this was your destination. Okay, so what I'll do, I can say that R1 to R2 link is down. Suppose R1 to R2 link is down. Now R1 can send via R3. Okay, but suppose it is following a strict parameter. Okay, so it is following a strict source routing that it has to go R1, then it has to go R2, then it has to reach to the destination. Okay, so now when it reaches there, the R1 to R1 path is down, so R1 can send via R3, but due to strict parameter that is already defined, it will be discarded at R1. Okay, now at R1 it is discarded and will send a ICMP packet back. Okay, so first scenario is this one, that if you are following a strict source routing, you can send ICMP packet back saying that there is a parameter problem because you have defined a parameter in the strict source routing to follow a particular path and I'm not able to follow it. Okay, another one is that when the data got corrupted. So suppose at R1, now it is not following any strict source routing here. Okay, so suppose any kind of header checksum is verified at this particular router here, and you know that the header checksum is not correct, so it means the data that the data you received is not correct. So you discard that packet and send a ICMP saying that the data that I received is got corrupted, and that is why I'm sending a parameter problem ICMP packet ICMP message back to the sender. Okay, so this is another way. So there are two ways uh, for this ICMP parameter problem can get into picture. Okay, so your fourth one is very easy, that is destination unreachable. Again, destination unreachable can be of two types. The first one is destination host unreachable. Another one is destination port unreachable. Okay, so I'm just writing it as DPU and DHU. Okay, so what happens is that suppose you are using this particular path, I'm just taking an example now. What happens here, so R1 to R2, now R2 send a ARP request to for the destination, and suppose this particular station is down. Okay, so this particular station is down and you will not get any MAC address back. Okay, so if you do not get any MAC address back, what you do, you will discard the packet and it will send a packet they'll send a ICMP back and it will say that the destination host is not reachable. That destination host, this is the host, I am not able to reach it. Another scenario can be port. Okay, so port can be that you have reached to the destination, so it is possible that you have reached to the destination part here, but in the destination there are another ports there are many ports that exist here. Okay, but suppose you are not able to reach this particular port, it is again it is already taken by some other host here, so you cannot reach this port here. What you do, you will again send a ICMP packet saying that the destination port is not reachable. Okay, so that is both the differences, host and port is different. Okay, so keep that in mind. Okay, so I think the last one is only one is remaining, that is source redirect. This is a very interesting. Okay, so this is not a error, but this is a kind of a warning. Okay, so suppose at R1 there is some problem. So there was some problem. So actually the shortest path was R1 to R2 to D, but some problem due to some problem at R1. Suppose there is some header checksum or any other problem. So R1 sent the packet to R3. Okay. So now what happens is that R3 knows that the best path from R1 was R2. So what does R3 do? It accept the packet. There is no problem in that. It accept the packet and it forwards and it goes to the destination, but it will send a ICMP packet saying that there is a better path available. Okay, so there is a better path available that is from R1 to R2. So you should follow that. Okay, so that is why it is called as source redirect. Okay, so in this again this ICMP packet is not a error message. So everything we have studied here, everything was an error message, but in this particular case, this is not a error message. This is just a warning message. Okay, so it is saying that I know a better place or a better path we should follow, and it is sending that path in the ICMP. Okay, so that is how. So I think your module 3 is now completely finished. In the next lecture I'll go on to the TCP or the transport layer part. Okay. So any other doubt, let me know. Again, be present in the next lecture because you already know there is going to be a quiz. Okay.
Thank you, sir.